Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Team Coaching Communities of Practices sessions. Today's session is on coaching your team as a collective makes it stronger. On behalf of Agile People Ops, me, Mariana, your host, would like to thank you all for joining us today. This series of calls aims to provide a platform for team managers, leaders, coaches to come together, share their experiences, and learn from one another. The sessions take place every fourth Wednesday of the month. I would now like to introduce our esteemed team coaches for today's session. The first is Himani Jayaswal. She's a leadership coach, facilitative trainer, and keynote speaker with over 24 years of experience. She's dedicated to using applied neuroscience and emotional intelligence to help create thriving organizational cultures and individual success stories. She's a professional certified coach through the International Coach Federation, which represents the gold standard for professional coaching worldwide. She's certified in applied neuroscience coaching, and she uses this powerful methodology in her clients' coaching development journey to discover their noble goals. The second is Naveen KS. He is the co-founder of Agile People Ops, who contributed in creating Agile People Ops framework. He is also an organizer of the HR conference People Ops Pulse and author of the Scrum Master Journal. He works as a consultant and coach in US, helping organizations transform and adopt business agility. He also helps leaders and teams through his coaching and reflection skills to help them become better versions of themselves and make progress one day at a time. He loves coaching and he went on to learn everything about coaching way back in 2014, enrolling in one of the best coaching schools in USA and holds ICF coaching certifications for last 7 years. Served as board member on one of the ICF chapter and volunteered for hundreds of pro bono coaching, helping individuals become better versions of themselves and grow in life. A very warm welcome to the team coaches and to whoever has joined us as the audience. Over to you, Himani and Naveen.
Thank you, Mariana.
Thank you,
Can you
Mariana.
guys can you guys see me? Okay.
Can see you
Cool.
bright and
Thank you.
nice. Right. So it would be nice that we have the the participants just share with us on the chat as to where they're logging in from and what are their roles in the organizations that they're working in, as in being a leader or a manager or an associate, whatever your role is. If you could just type that in the chat, it'd be great. Meanwhile, we will just take you through to our time together, and we'll be talking about, as the name suggests, that coaching the team as a collective makes it stronger. And we'll go through this concept, understanding some parts of it, and understanding some concepts through a poll, through some group activity, as well as a few takeaways which we have for you. So we have some inputs on the chat, which is, which are, Dinah says she's a coach manager outside Philadelphia. And what about the rest? Keep them coming in. Okay. From Hartford, USA. I mean, yes, thanks. Right now, I'm originally from India, but right now I'm in USA. So I'm in Southfield, Michigan right now. So yes. Okay, hi Anissa, and you're an intern. She's a part of the okay. That's nice, part of the team, and let that keep flowing in, so that we do know where you're dialing in from and what your role in your current organization is. And we can move to the next slide. Okay, so now this is a very, very interesting as well as an important topic that we are really talking about. We all want to really get into the world of team coaching, and you're all hearing about it so much. It's literally the buzzword for everything that we're talking about today, teams and team coaching. But before that, wherever we are working, whether we are a part of a team, whether we are a team leader, whether we are a team manager, whether we are even above that, below that, wherever, team member, it's very important to know that what is it, where are you really working? Is that team even what it uh, i- is that team even a real team? And there are various ways of looking at that, which is what we intend to do. A part of our session is into that, and then we'll move on into the part where we talk about coaching it as a collective, because you can only coach something as a collective, meaning you can coach a team as a collective only when you're coaching a team. Now, if you don't have a real team, that means you're coaching something else. You might be still coaching, that's all right. But you're not really coaching a team, because a team can only become a team if it meets certain criterias. So the first thing to consider in that, wherever, even if I am noticing the comments, and I see there's a life coach starting to be a Scrum Master. That's very nice. So yeah, just keep them coming in, and thanks for sharing. So yeah, I was saying that when we need to get into this whole understanding that, when you coach a team as a collective, it makes it stronger. The first thing we really need to understand, and we need to consolidate within ourselves, wherever we are working, that are we working as a team? Are we a real team? And which is what, we are saying here. Now, how do we understand that? How do we find that out? I need to know what are the standards, what are the parameters. So for that, we've got a little, a small poll for you, because wherever you're working, either as a team member or as a team manager or as a team leader, of course, we'll have our different perspectives, and even as a team coach for that matter, we'll be able to have some parameters or some, ways of knowing that is this a real team or not. So, Ariana, if I may ask you to pull the poll out so that we can get the participants to poll. So, yeah, the question is that, and why are we doing this? As I just explained, that because this team may not be a real team. I mean, and if you're starting out to coach them to make them stronger, obviously we first need to check if we are working with a real team or not. And do we need to do something about that first and then go on to coaching them? So here's a poll for you. If you could just all, participate in this poll. It's a multiple choice poll. So you will be able to answer these questions, give your views on these statements, and we will have a result coming in. And please understand this very important point, that right now you may be here in your understanding about this, because this may be your team structure right now. And as an intern, you might have a different understanding. As a team leader, you might have a different understanding. As a team manager, you might be having a different understanding. So it's all very relative, but it's a great tool for being able to know where you are at what stage of your team development. And that's why what we're going to do is we're going to share this in the websites that we have, in which we've got a whole bundle of resources, which are, all for you, and which we share in these calls. So what we are doing is we're putting them together so that you have access to them, and in your organizations you can really use them as valuable resources whenever you are doing teamwork and team development, team coaching, and leader as coach initiatives. So I see a lot of people have shared, which is okay. So what is really the trend that is coming out here? We see that most of us seem to feel that we have a clear and shared understanding of what we are trying to achieve together. And some of us have a clear and shared understanding of the priorities, which is interesting. And what do you think is the lowest out here according to the poll? What is the lowest factor out here? Um, I see we have a high degree of interdependency, that is 30% as lowest here. And we have a strong store of goodwill towards each other is the other one, which is on the lower side. Now, as you see that, these results are pretty indicative. on their own, on your first glance itself, you're able to find out a lot about where, like, so this was a group poll, and a lot, some of you are working in different companies, and so you represent a heterogeneity. So this was about getting an idea of usually how teams are and how teams their teams, the you know the structure and the psychology and things like that of a team is. But imagine doing this for your own organizations and your own teams that you're working for. Very quickly you'll be able to get an idea, even if you do a random 360 amongst, or you just do this kind of poll with your participants from time to time. You will get a very quick idea of what it is that your team is looking for at a very, very, in a very, very quick way. So you don't really need to do a lot of, you don't really need to go into very, very deep surveys or things like that to really get an idea of the team's health. So there are concepts called healthy teams, and which we'll be discussing probably later in some later sessions. So when often, just before I go on, I like to just share this one thing, that often we talk about, highly productive teams and high performing teams. Please remember that high performing teams, the first thing that comes from in high performing teams, the base of it is to start with a healthy team. And before even that, we need to check whether we are working with a real team or not. So, that it's a primal check. And often, though it sounds very basic, we seem to forget it. That are we even working with a team, a real team, or is it just a group of people? What's the difference? You've seen here that if you have a clear vision, a clear understanding that you're working on a common goal together, then you're a real team, amongst the other things. And I'll come back to this later. And if you are a group of people who are just working together because, yeah, this is your job, then you're probably a group of people who are still working together, but who may not have a shared vision, which is the basic thing of what a team is about. So I hope this part is clear. So we've checked this, right? So Mariana, we can move to the next slide. So it is a challenge. It was a challenge to find that out, but we did we miss a slide, Mariana? No, I
The
think
previous one was the poll.
okay, great, thanks. So yes, we called it a challenge and an opportunity. Now, what was the opportunity? We did a quick check and we found out, okay, it's a real team. So we ticked that. And maybe at this stage, we found out that no, it's not a real team. So we need to go back to stage one, and we need to take some steps to make it a real team, which is a different point, which we are right now not getting into. But that's point number one there. So now, if we have point number one covered, we are making it a real team, which means it is a single entity, which means it's a collective. A collective is like, something that we can call as one, a single entity. And that's why now we can make it a successful, high-performing, healthy team, right? So I hope you understand the flow. And this flow is very important, as I said, because if we cross that stage without checking it, then we may be going into a place, we want to make a high-performing team, but we haven't done our due diligence in the first two stages, and we may not be able to make a high-performing, healthy team. So now we can go on to the next slide.
Yeah, I think whatever Imani, sorry to interrupt here, whatever you're explaining, maybe here, it's here actually. Yeah, thanks for sharing. People who are coming from a pure management background, I just want to let them know that there are different basic differences of team coaching between the team coaching and team management, team development, team facilitation, all those different things basically. So we are talking a little bit on a higher side because we have been teaching you for a period of last 4 to 5 months of the basics of that team. What does a team means? And now we are coming to the real team and then team coaching.
Sure. Thanks for adding
Back
that.
to you, Amani. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And just to reiterate, which I've done previously, a single entity team or a real team or a collective, one of the same things. I mean, we're using it, we're using the terms synonymously here. It is something where the perspective shift is from me to we. So I'm no longer thinking as one person who just comes to a job and it's from my job, and of course I'm working, it's my job. But as far as the team is concerned, the shift is that it's we are in this together, right? And then obviously then we move on to the levels of collaboration, coordination, and alignment amongst its members becomes very high, and and which in turn results to a great pride and happiness and a sense of satisfaction in being a part of this winning team. And let's remember this disclaimer here, that when we say winning team, it does not mean that you win in everything that you do. Like, there are loads of challenges sometimes that happen. Sometimes projects don't go as well as we planned. Things happen. But the attitude is what we are calling as winning out here. So as a leader, or as a manager, or as a somebody who's taking care of a team, it's very important to understand these subtleties, that when I'm talking about creating a winning team or a healthy team, it's not that I'm expecting my team members to win all the time, or that they don't make mistakes, or things like that. I mean, those are different subjects, like growth mindset and all that, and we'll be covering those also in other sessions. But it's important to understand that that whenever we have a loss, supposing a setback, we can take time to say that, okay, what went wrong, what can we reassess and regroup, and when we are facing that adversity. And that's the beauty of being in a real team. Otherwise, again, that's a danger mark. If you're not reassessing, or if you're not regrouping, or if you fail to if you're failing and then you're feeling very upset about it, which is pretty natural, but are unable to really sit back and understand, then somewhere again you need to understand that maybe the leader still needs to understand how to run that team, or maybe the team members are not feeling as psychologically safe to be able to discuss with the team leader as to why they are not able to perform, or whatever. So these are very soft but subtle nuances which come in the way of every team member. And I'm sure in your experience, when you're working either as a team member or as a team leader, you do come across these situations where you're unable to either share with your team leader or manager that, okay, I think this is where we were going wrong and astray, or your team manager is unable to after the team's project maybe has not gone too well, he's not able to sit down and sit with you and say, okay, so what do you think happened out here? So this is nothing but a place where the health of the team is not as good. So these are checkpoints again, right? And we can move to the next slide. So now a very important point here, that when we say single entity, it somehow brings you the point that we all think together. We are all thinking the same, and one mind, one in body, one in mind. But that would be group thinking. That would be called group think, and we don't want group think, because then we would not have new ideas. We would not have anything to kind of no novel, Einstein kind of ideas coming in, and we don't want that. We don't want somebody to say yes, boss, for everything, though it may sound pleasant to the ear sometimes to have yes, sir, and no, or yes coming in, but it's certainly not healthy. And we are wanting healthy teams to have more high performing teams. So it does not imply unanimous agreement or thinking. In fact, the diversity of those perspectives and the competencies, that's why we talk about multi-generational workforces. We talk about so many other kind of diversities, and we celebrate those diversities. Those contribute to its high performance. So again, a very, very important point to remember, that groupthink is not what we are encouraging when we're talking about healthy or high productive teams. And we can move to the next slide.
So the reason I would like to add, the reason is when all the team members on a team start thinking on the same lines, you may be producing at the highest rate, but the innovation and any kind of complexity arises, your team will fall apart. So we are not telling about the other end of a spectrum where everybody is thinking same. So whenever I talk about team cohesion and the complexity of managing, I always tell my audience to think about your palm with the fingers. Each finger is assume a team member. Each team member is a different shape and size, right? In our case, it could be different work styles, personalities coming from a different perspective. But you see, our hand still functions, and individually they have their own strength, but when they come together, it becomes a fist, much more stronger than the individual, right? But you see, they're all different. We don't want them to be of the same size and same structure. There is no function of that. We're not talking about that end of the spectrum. Over to you back, Himani. Just wanted to give an example.
Sure. And what I found intriguing here was that did you raise your hand as per the Zoom function, or did it pick it up from the AI?
No, I just had my hand.
Oh, interesting. So we have, okay, interesting. Right. Okay. Yeah. So yes, I mean that was a very important point. And the reason is very clear right now. Why we're sharing all this is because we know that we have very, very short cycles now when teams work with projects, shorter timelines, and we have a lot to deliver. So, and fewer resources. I mean, we have hybrid workplaces. We have, very different styles of, even teams who are working together. And that's why I believe that a lot of the team coaching work, or the background work, or even the basic work where leader as team coaches thing is coming up, because we can't expect we can't always expect somebody from outside. Though being an outside external team coach myself, I know the value that I would bring in an organization, but I would still encourage that the leaders who are working in organizations be the proxy team coaches for them, for their own teams. Wear that hat, like in the last session we talked about the many hats that managers had wear, and that was an extremely pertinent point also. So here also we are encouraging that as leaders, wear your hat as a coach, wear your hat as a team coach, and there's a difference between that. But as a team coach, you can really successfully maneuver your team, that of course one, work as a single entity, which is the primal thing that where we are starting from, and then learning from your failures, which is the growth mindset, which is the other point, which is, and then the third is where we were talking about the part that we are not there as encouraging you to group think. So we are inviting a lot of perspectives, and we'll talk more about that, how to really invite perspectives, how to use a coaching approach to invite perspectives, and also seeing your team for who they are and being able to adapt quickly to what they need from you as a leader, and using your coaching approach to be able to generate the best out of your team. So this is where actually the whole concept of coaching your team as a collective comes in from. And once you know that your team is a healthy team, that means it's a single entity, then we will begin to take some of the tools and or actions for coaching as a collective. And that's what that's what the rest of the session will focus on now. Till now, we were setting up the base for what is a real team, and understanding that how does that help, and also being able to understand that how does a leader or a coach, what role would he have in order to put this benchmark for his team. And now we'll actually go into the techniques that a team leader or a team manager can use to be able to use or coach their team as a collective. So they would be there in the next slide. So right, today we're covering these 3 techniques. I mean, these are simple but not easy at times. And why I say that is that as we get more and more into the task orientation of our jobs, which we are all pretty good at, but it does take a lot of time. We don't really we don't utilize the all these things. We know these techniques because they, as I said, they're simple, but we don't use them. And that's when the folly happens, that's when the problems happen, because only after a long gap do we find out that we are not where we are supposed to be as far as our team growth development is concerned, and which has direct impacts on the productivity, which has impact on the overall team the organizational health, and lots more. So, I mean, while we're not getting into the organizational, the health of things, but we do know it has a direct impact on a lot of things that are there as far as the organization is concerned. Now, these techniques are when you are a manager or a leader, or even as a team member. So it's not only restricted to your being a team leader at this time. It's also you're developing into a team leader or a manager, and also as a team member, you can use this approach, because then you'd be recognized for using these techniques, and probably you'll be able to grow very fast in your career ladder, because you'll be training yourself in the right way from day one, as soon as you're actually beginning your coaching journey. So the first one is ask, don't tell. The first one is actually problem-based coaching. We'll start with that. Then is ask, don't tell. And the third one is called after action review. So these are just the names. I'll just get into explaining those. So we have time with us, so fine. The first one is, as its name suggests, it says ask, don't tell. And I think we are all guilty of the fact that, if we know something, then the easiest way is to tell it. That, okay, I mean, why reinvent everything? Yeah, you already know what to do, so I'll tell you what to do. It was so simple. But then you are doing it at the cost of the potential of your team. And even more than the potential, you are actually making sure that you, in a way, when you are telling them what to do, it's like saying that, I am not asking you to think at all. I'm asking you to leave your brains at home, come here and do your work and go back home. Now imagine tomorrow when we're actually in a firefighting situation, and leaders usually complain of this, that I have to take all the decisions around here. Nobody has any ideas. Why don't you people come up with something that we can do about this situation? Well, where have you asked them to think so far?
Mm.
You have not asked them to think so far. If you've not asked them to do that, they can't do that on the spot, on demand. So therefore, we must get into the habit of asking people to be able to think. So it's actually very simple. It's like, if you're going into a team meeting, or if you're talking to one of your team members, and you want to probably being able to somebody would ask you a question that, okay, what should I do about this project? I'm stuck here. Or what is the way that we should incorporate this in our, something about a deadline or something like that. I may have everything just out here, but instead of doing that, I mean, it takes a little bit of practice to do that, but once you get the hang of it, it actually is a very dynamic tool. So you can actually, what really has helped me and helped a lot of other people, is you can count from 10 to 1 backwards, or maybe even 5 to 1 before replying. So if you just count in your mind, say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 before even giving a reply, and then you can say, uh, okay, that's a good question. What have you tried so far? Or what's working, what's not? Or let's talk about it. Would you like to? So it becomes your base for the person to actually start thinking, and that thinking can go a long way into developing your high productive, high functioning, healthy team. So it's very effective before you're going for a team meeting, to get yourself into that shape that today you're going to ask, not tell. Just tell yourself this much, that, okay, today I'm going to ask, not tell. For team members, we are not advocating this approach that you're going to, you can use it. You can, if you are talking to another team member and they come to you for advice, or they come to you for say that, why don't you do my work? I mean, I'm stuck. So, take this work and do this. Instead of that, you can just say, okay, why don't we try it together? What have you tried so far? So it works the same way even then. So and basically what it does, it focuses the whole team on exploring issues more thoroughly. Possibly you're actually unearthing, sometimes there are errors and incorrect assumptions that you're constantly working on. So it's like a treadmill that you're working on, and you're always working on the same way. So again, innovation doesn't happen, creativity doesn't take place, new ideas don't come in, because you're not inviting anybody to share ideas. You're telling them what to do and they are following it, because that's actually quite simple not to think. I mean, the brain is designed to look for safety, is designed to look for a lot of rest if it has to. But when provoked, when given the right cue, then it can be a marvelous machine. And as a, you know, as somebody who's working in neuroscience, I can tell you that once the brain starts working, it's excellent. So this is the first one. The second one is, this is problem-based coaching. Very similar, but here we are, the leader has a problem or the manager has a problem, which could be coming from the team, the basic, something has happened, and you are placing the problem on the table and asking your team members basically to brainstorm, share their perspectives about it, saying, okay, here it is. You can even say, I don't know what to do. I mean, here are the, here is what I have come up with so far. Maybe you don't even need to share that. You don't share the solution, and you ask people with the problem. You start with the problem statement and you follow it up with a set of, if nothing is coming out from the team, maybe, then you ask more inquiring questions. And I would really encourage you to, when you have free time, to make a list of these problem-based coaching questions, because they don't come up to you just like that. So you need to have some 5-6 questions ready, like what could be the top 3 causes of this problem, from where is this originating from, or the last time we had a problem like this, what did we do, things like that. These could be actually pretty helpful for you to start helping people to think, because if people are not used to thinking, then you could actually face a little challenge. But don't get worried by that. People will eventually start contributing once they know that you're on their side and you are open to listening and getting their inputs. And the third, and the last but not the least approach
I
is,
just want to ask a question to audience here. Anyone here who has done the problem solving session as a facilitator? If yes, what is the number one challenge you have faced it in a problem solving session? Okay, in the interest of time, I'll give the answer. The clarity on a problem itself. That's the number one challenge you would face in a problem solving session. The team needs to have a full, complete clarity on what exactly problem we have. Now switch the role. You as a team coach should have a absolute number one clarity what the problem the team is trying to resolve. For that, you ask more. Basically, you need to listen more before even you start running this technique on the team. Sorry, I just want to ask people.
No, that's a great input, and that's what thanks, Diana, for sharing that. Not spending enough time to understand the problem. Absolutely. In the diagnostics, I mean, we usually get further away, and then we don't even know what is the root issue. Thank you for sharing that. Right. In the interest of time, we won't go through Menti, because we can, generate the responses out here only, and we can go to the third technique, which is one of my favorites, which is after action review, because often our concentration is on the problem and solving it and issue, but after it's solved, we're usually very relaxed and like, oh, done with, we're done with the project, we're through, so happy and everything. Now the US intelligence, I mean, the they follow this AAR method, and every time an event happens, they reflect and they review this the post the event. And basically the key is to encourage that, okay, what have we learned out of it? So a lot of learning comes out of it, and which is what they put in their AAR. And then they, before starting a new project, they again go through those learnings, so that pre a project, they're able to also see those insights, so that if they need to make any changes in the next, they are able to use those. So it's a after action review, a step which we sometimes tend to miss, because once the whole energy is spent in doing a project, often we kind of miss out on the review stage. But it's very important, because you may find the gaps, and those gaps may save you a lot of time before we okay, wasn't able to grab all the content for the problem base. Yeah, sure. We can, Mariana can just paste those for you here. Okay, so this is AAR. You could go through the US Army techniques, and you'll find a lot more detail out there. I haven't, shared it in a detailed way. Just wanting to give you a little idea of the techniques that we can use. And the presentation seems to be off, but in any case, but those
When it
were,
comes up, I can. Yeah, sorry, Hemani, go ahead.
yeah. No, I was just saying that we were just wrapping it up and putting out the key takeaways from these three techniques. We can move to the next slide. And so I just want to reiterate, something that that we've had kind of started with the beginning. That one, we have for you a real-time checklist as a tool for you to check if your team is a real team and a single entity. So number one, check, do that before. And you don't need to do that once. You need to do that every time you're beginning in something, or you feel that, yes, I need to do this check. You also need to get your members into this habit of understanding that, yes, I need to check where I am. So let me do this use this checklist for myself. And then we discussed three simple, but as I said, simple, maybe not easy to use or follow, but so three techniques which we use as coaching tools with our team, so that we coach them as a collective. These are not individual coaching techniques. These are group team coaching techniques. So please understand that they are different. Individually, you may coach your people one-to-one, which are different, which we've talked about in previous sessions. These are team coaching techniques as a leader or as a manager that you can use. And this is the article from where I got in a lot of my inputs for this particular session, because I found it extremely useful and also something which is very doable. Often team coaching is uh, is 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 very mystic. So we need to demystify it, so that as leaders, as people who are working in organizations, we don't have to search far and wide for material to use to do it every day in our organizations. Of course, if we want to become team coaches, we'll have to study their entire thing, and we'll have to become very professional about it. But as people who are leaders and managers, we need to go through courses which are structured differently, which of course we as an organization have also prepared and are going to start very soon, which Naveen will talk about in a bit. So this was what I wanted to share about this whole concept, and we can share we can share these slides. And I think now we can really move on to, of course, I need to share with you again that we will be sharing this checklist again, which you can really use, and the three techniques as well as a tool. So which will all be there in the website in time, so that you can have access to it. If there are any questions, comments, feel free to keep asking, sharing, and putting them on the chat. But over to you, Naveen and Mariana, for the other details.
Yeah, two things actually. Definitely, the real team checklist it will be sent out to you all as a handout, so you can paste it on your desk, and when you're doing team coaching, ensure some of those things you can follow. I also want to give an example of after action review. After action review can be used as a team coach in many ways, even for the complex learning. Indian Air Force, when they got the latest gens of fighter planes, the pilots, after learning the training sessions, they used to sit and complete 2 hours of after action review. And each of the pilots after action review was to be consolidated to see what is the common learnings they got it, and what is the common problems they are finding in terms of using the aircraft in the sky. And then that is to become a kind of a learning path a learning or training journal for the next session. And then they used to go through those classroom trainings, go through demonstrations, and then they used to go on a practice session. So it's kind of a used also as a feedback tool or a feedback tool for learning the equipment itself. So in IT teams, it could be deploying a big IT system. In your individual, these things could be anything basically. But after action review is a very powerful tool when it comes to a team coach basically. So use it where creatively wherever you feel it's suitable. And I'm very big fan of that since I learned about Indian Air Force pilots using that actually. Typically, US Army started that on the missions. Basically, when you come back, they used to do after action review. So it becomes kind of a feedback for the next team. But even this can be applied for the learning, basically. That's what I learned from the Indian Air Force. That's all from my side, actually. Even if you don't have anything, then we can hand it over to
Yeah, no, I'm
Mariana.
done with my whatever I needed to share.
Okay, thank you.
First of all, thank you both Himani and Naveen for this insightful presentation on team coaching and fostering a growth mindset within teams. I would also like to thank you all from the audience for joining us today. We appreciate your time and participation, and we hope that you found today's session very informative and engaging. You will all receive a feedback form link in the chat box. Would request you all to share your feedback. As Himani mentioned, the handout will be shared via email to all, and even the presentation slides will be shared as well. So what do we have next? We have our next team coaching communities of practices session on March 27th. Join team coaches Himani and Naveen, where the session focuses on cultivating the attributes of a good team coach, offering 6 tips to enhance coaching effectiveness, and providing a team coaching tool for delivering feedback, empowering leaders to excel as team coaches within their organization. To register for this event, kindly scan the QR code below or join using the link shared in the chat box. Alternatively, you all can join our APO Global Community LinkedIn group to get further updates on upcoming events. You can also scan the QR code to join or use the link that is going to be shared in the chat box. We also have a community platform which can be used to collaborate and engage with other passionate individuals. Join using the link shared in the chat box. This recording will be shared with all the participants who have registered and attended the session, and we will upload it to our Agile People Ops YouTube channel. Thank you all once again. Have a wonderful day ahead. With lots of gratitude, I'm Mariana, your host, will be signing off for today.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.